Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Ben and I. Today, no Michigan Villanova slander, Michigan Notre Dame slander. It's strictly Bears NFL draft. It's mid-April. We have, I believe, 11 days until the first round, and when the draft commences, Ben, I am thrilled as ever. In today's video, we're only doing quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line. We're keeping the defense for maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. We'll see. We're filming this on a Sunday. But yeah, I have the current depth chart right at the top. So you see Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. That's their current team. They're not on the Cowboys and the Jaguars. That's their current team. Priority level, of course, Andy Dalton and Nick Foles absolutely suck. So the priority level is high, even though they most likely will not take a quarterback. And then QB prospects, if you don't know what position you play, but if you're watching this video, you know Kyle Trask and Justin Fields play the quarterback position. Okay. So my two guys, Ben and I each got 2 or 3 guys per position. My two guys are Kyle Trask and Trey Lance. These are reasonable. I would pick Trevor Lawrence, but hell, the Bears are not going to pick Trevor Lawrence. The Bears, if Kyle Trask falls to the second round at 52, I believe the Bears have a selection. I'm assuming they picked Kyle Trask. I think this dude is a first-round talent. I think he's a lottery pick talent. But he's been slipping. Mac Jones has been rising. Little weird to see. I kind of thought it would be the opposite, but of course a national title will help you. And then Trey Lance, of course, has been slipping. He didn't play. He played one game, didn't play very well. They played like Central Arkansas, so it was so random. Like that game didn't really count. But what I saw from him in that 2019 season was just elite. He's looked solid through his workouts last summer, last fall, this winter. And then they're, of course, all doing workouts now. They're all out of their season. I would also like to mention, though, we do not have many 5th through 7th and undrafted round guys. We have a few, but a lot of those guys are in their season right now. The FCS is playing their spring season right now. So that includes guys from North Dakota State, Illinois State, schools like that, the lower level of Division I. So those guys are playing right now. So I want to get that known.
And the
Bears and every NFL team are actively watching these games because these guys are not going to have pro days. They're playing their season and they're going to get drafted. Super weird. They don't have the spring and winter evaluation period. They're just playing games and that's their evaluation. So I want to get that out there. And then I'll give the floor to Ben for his 2 guys.
All right, so the third position there, Justin Fields. A little controversial for me to even put him on this list because he has been considered a top-tier talent for his entire time, and he's been considered a top 5 player in the draft for almost the entire lead up to the NFL draft. But, I'm just going to say, he's been slipping. I don't really understand why. I consider him the second-best quarterback in this class. I think that he would be a great second option behind Trevor Lawrence, but Zach Wilson's clearly surpassed him. It looks like the 49ers are taking Mac Jones, the Alabama quarterback, and I've seen a lot of mocks where Trey Lance goes above Justin Fields. I'm confused by it. I don't understand it, but if this happens, if Justin Fields drops to the 5th quarterback, I've seen the Bears. There's been a few websites I've read where the Bears trade positions with the Cowboys to get into the top 10, maybe take Justin Fields or Trey Lance or whoever falls in that quarterback position. And then my other guy, Kellen Mond. Also, I'm just going to say the things about Justin Fields I've been reading, like he doesn't have enough effort, commitment, desire, just false. I mean,
absolutely
he played through a huge rib injury in the college football playoff semifinal to lead his team to victory over Clemson. Like, this guy is tough. He works hard. Like, I don't understand where that's coming from. Some of it you could call racism. I don't know. But it is what it is. I believe he should be considered a top 2 quarterback in this draft. And if he falls, great for the Bears. But my other quarterback, Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. This was more 3rd-round guy, later round guy. But I do believe that if he falls to the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, he will be a great selection if the Bears somehow haven't picked up a quarterback by then. Had a good year with Texas A&M. Struggles with accuracy. But he's mobile. He's kind of a more modern player type. And, in the later rounds, that's what you like to see.
Absolutely. Kellen Mond, I'm not going to lie, is not my favorite. I've seen him mocked to the Bears more than any other quarterback on the board. I'm not a huge fan of the pick, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't see him starting now or in the future. But taking one of those first three quarterbacks, I could see them starting either this year or in the future. And Ben, great comment that the Bears have been looking at trading up for a quarterback like Trey Lance or Justin Fields. Those two guys are my personal two favorite that the Bears are actually in contention for. Moving to running backs, of course, their priority level is low. The Bears have David Montgomery, who's had an incredible last few games of his 2020 campaign, and Tariq Cohen was hurt. So you got a lot of unproven there, but we've seen what Tariq Cohen can do, especially in his rookie year. Showed some flashes the last 2 years too. I wouldn't give up on him quite yet, but David Montgomery is a tier 1 running back in this league. I like to say that. I think David Montgomery is the real deal. And with a better offensive line, which we will talk about, and I think the Bears will end up picking a few offensive linemen early. We'll talk about that later. But running back wise, here we go. My two guys, Kenneth Gainwell and Kylan Hill. Two unproven I'd say day 3 guys. Kenneth Gainwell did not play his 2020 season for Memphis. He decided to leave early. The Memphis running backs continue. He was there under Mike Norvell, who I will say is a little bit of a running back whisperer. They had Darnell Henderson Jr., who is now on the Rams, a guy who I was all over for the Bears. David Montgomery is now looking like a better pick than Darnell Henderson. So shout out to Ryan Pace for that one and Matt Nagy. But I'm really big on these Memphis running backs, especially Kenneth Gainwell. He put on a show against Penn State in the 2019 Cotton Bowl on New Year's Day, 2020 actually. And then Kylan Hill was poised for a big year, played, I believe it was 3 games. I said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on the draft and prepare. These two guys will 100% get drafted. I could see Kenneth Gainwell being a 3rd-round guy. Kylan Hill, I see him more as a 4th, 5th, or 6th-round guy. But if the Bears can somehow land one of these two guys, I would be thrilled, and they would be great 2nd or even 3rd options. We'll see what happens with Tariq Cohen. There's a lot of question marks there. I'll give the floor to Ben.
Yeah, so I agree with Brad here that the Bears' running back position is of lower priority. I will caution the David Montgomery bandwagon just a little. I know he went off at the end of last season, but he did have 1.5 years of fairly unproductive play prior to his breakout final couple games, final 6 weeks of the season. So I will warn people that don't quite buy into all his hype yet. He is a great player. He's talented, but let's not expect him to just become an all-pro level running back. And Tariq Cohen, as a 2nd-string running back, has great explosiveness. He's a great change of pace guy to complement David Montgomery. So I really like the Bears running backs, but if we go running back in the draft, which is possible later in the draft, I don't know. It's not that likely in my opinion, but it is what it is. I have Trey Sermon here, who is probably a 3rd-round, 4th-round running back out of Ohio State. I'm all too accustomed to Trey Sermon. I don't love Ohio State, as you can tell. I'm a big Michigan guy. But this dude is a talented running back. Ohio State's running backs are always very solid, if not spectacular. But this guy played spectacularly at the end of last season, put up 330 rushing yards in the Big Ten chip against Northwestern. And in the college football playoff against Clemson, I believe he also had a very explosive game. Quite talented. He's not the fastest, 4.58 dash, but he has great physicality, and he is a smart player. Great competitiveness, so I believe he will be a good choice if the Bears look to the running back position. Jarrett Patterson, put this guy on as a shout-out because one of the more prolific players in college football over the past couple of years. I think he either had a 7 or a 9 touchdown game with Buffalo this past season.
I believe it was 9.
It was 9, yeah. He set that FBS record there, and I kind of put him on. He's could go undrafted. I like to see him in the 6th or 7th round. Doesn't have great physical traits, but he's clearly a talented player to be able to put up those stats, which I don't like. If you're gonna look at a player, look at his stats before you look at his tools. Like you gotta check those first because that's really the best measure of evaluating players, in my opinion. So, Jarrett Patterson, 6th or 7th round player. I don't think the Bears go running back in this draft, though.
We'll see. Yeah, I don't think the Bears will go running back this draft either. But you never know. We'll see. A guy like Kylan Hill or Jarrett Patterson will probably be there. I will say the Bears have four 6th round picks with no 7th rounders, no 4th rounders, 1 5th, 1 3rd, 1 2nd, and 1 1st. So I want to just make that clear. 4 6th rounders, a 5th, a 3rd, a 2nd, and a 1st. It's gonna get that out there. Let's move on to wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown is my choice. I've seen a lot of drafts with him ending up at the Bears. I think he should have came back personally. Keaton Slovis is poised for a big year for the Trojans. Tyler Vaughns is another pretty prolific USC wide receiver from California. Ben is not happy with California wide receivers, especially young ones now, as Xavier Worthy left Michigan. But that's completely off track. That's football.
No Michigan slander. No.
But had to put in a shot there. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I thought he would end up at Notre Dame out of high school. I was a little saddened when he chose the Trojans, but it is what it is. I will say there are 3 Brown brothers. One of them went to Stanford, one went to USC, one went to Notre Dame. 3 really prolific schools, 3 schools better academically than Michigan. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, solid year, 7 touchdowns, a little under 500 yards. I like him as a solid slot receiver at the next level. Do I think he'll be elite? No, but I think he's better than Anthony Miller, and I am done with Anthony Miller. Get him out of Chicago. Cornell Powell is a guy who came into the year as maybe the second or third option. He was at Clemson just sitting behind guys, but his time came. Few guys got injured, few guys left, and he put up some big numbers. Against Notre Dame on November 7th, he caught a deep strike from DJ Ukulele. I believe that made the game 7-10 in the second quarter. And ever since then, I have been watching Cornell Powell, and he has produced 7 touchdowns, nearly 900 yards. That's impressive. No matter if you have DJ Ukulele, Trevor Lawrence, doesn't matter. It's still impressive. Played some big-time teams and produced. Played well against Notre Dame both times they played. Played well against Miami. I wouldn't say he played great against Ohio State, but he did what he needed to do. But I'm a big Cornell Powell fan, even though he went to Clemson and nearly beat Notre Dame in that November 7th matchup. But shout out Cornell Powell. I think he's actually a very good wide receiver. Both of those guys are late day 2 or early day 3 guys.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with Brad on the Anthony Miller situation. That pick seems to be – he had potential, flash potential in his first year, but last year really wasn't what you'd expect or want to see out of a second-year wide receiver. So kind of done with Anthony Miller, and the Bears will probably be looking for a wide receiver at some point in this draft. So here are my guys. Tylan Wallace, Oklahoma State, just explosive athlete, 4.39 in the 40. That is right the speed you want to see out of a top-end wide receiver, and flashed great stats with Spencer Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, that 3-headed monster at Oklahoma State, that offense under Mike Gundy. He's a good athlete, and with that speed, he's also a great ball catcher, pass catcher. Why did I say ball? Pass catcher, and he's what you like to see out of a modern wide receiver: quick, good hands, and every intangible you want. So day 2 guy probably. I'll look for the Bears to look for Tylan Wallace, and then Nico Collins went to Michigan. Also didn't.
Unfortunate event.
Didn't decide to come back. He initially declared it was because of COVID and the eligibility stuff. Even though that ended up not being a problem, he still decided to just not come back. I don't really get the right reasoning behind that, but I think he's a good prospect. He's 6'4.5". He ran a 4.45 40, so that's good speed, and he has real good physical tools to become an NFL receiver. Reminded me of Devin Funchess with great height, a deep ball threat as well. He caught a lot of just aggressive catches in Madden, if you want to call like one-on-one matchups with cornerbacks. Just good hands and really good speed. And I think this is a 3rd, 4th, 5th round guy if he falls a little because he didn't play in college last season.
Yeah, I agree with Ben. Nico Collins, solid player. I think it was actually a good choice, a good move on his part to not come back for his senior year with the quarterback, just the program. It was going to get ugly. I will say Nico Collins also had some behavioral issues.
He did.
A little low-key, but we'll see what happens. Tylan Wallace, though, I agree with that pick, Ben. That is a solid player for Bears fans to know about and keep an eye on. Moving to tight ends, probably the least important position right now for the Bears. The Bears, of course, have Jimmy Graham for 1 more year and Cole Kmet for, I believe, 2 or 3. Pat Freiermuth, however you say it.
Freiermuth, I think.
Freiermuth is a very solid player. He's battled some injuries throughout his college career. but I love his blocking ability, and he's talented nevertheless. Whenever I saw him play, he just looked dominant. He was on another level. 6'5", 260. That's what you want to see out of a big-time tight end. So Pat Freiermuth is my number one option. The number two, I'm going Tommy Tremble. When you look at Tommy Tremble's stats, they suck. I'm gonna be honest. 0 tight end, 0 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns his junior year, maybe 4. One against Louisville, one against Bowling Green. Believe he had another one. It doesn't matter. Tommy Tremble, he's all about blocking. This dude loves contact. In the Clemson game, I don't think Notre Dame beats Clemson without Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble was the lead blocker for Notre Dame. He was in probably a 95% of snaps, which for a guy with 0 tight ends as a tight end is pretty phenomenal. But it's all about blocking with Tommy Tremble. He's physical. When he declared, a lot of people were questioning why he declared. He was probably a 4th or 5th round guy then. I was pretty locked he would be a day 3 guy. But since then, since he declared in mid-January, I believe it was like the day before Marcus Freeman was hired, he has soared up the rankings. I have seen him in the 2nd round. I don't know if there's been anyone rising faster than Tommy Tremble has. A pro day definitely would have helped him. I do not believe he participated in Notre Dame's first pro day. Maybe he did. I feel like he was in the second group. That didn't end up happening, though. I might be wrong on that. I need to check. Tommy Tremble, I love him. I think he's probably the most likely candidate for Notre Dame if the Bears do pick a tight end, just on the fact he's not a true tight end. He's a blocking guy. And the Bears, hey, their offensive line is pretty crappy. You could use a blocking tight end like Tommy Tremble.
All right. So, yeah, Brett mentioned earlier that the Bears tight end's not a position of need for this team.
And Kyle Pitts no.
Yeah, I was about to say that. This is a weak tight end class as well. With Kyle Pitts being by far and away the best tight end in the class, top 5 player in the class, Bears aren't going to get Kyle Pitts, and they don't really – I mean, they like him, but they don't need him. They have Cole Kmet. They have Jimmy Graham. And so I don't think this is a super important position, but I will say I've been looking into Brevin Jordan out of Miami. Miami's produced a lot of good tight ends in the NFL. Chris Herndon, Jimmy Graham. It's kind of a tight end U. Greg Olson. I mean, this is a school that produces good tight ends. Brevin Jordan had a great season with Miami this past year. 576 yards, 7 touchdowns. If you compare those stats to Tommy Tremble's, you see who wins there. And he also runs a 4.6 40, and he's 6'3", 270 or not 275. What is
245?
245. Yeah, sorry about that. 6'3", 245. So solid size, and a little inconsistent. But for this tight end class, I'd put him as the 3rd best tight end up there, just behind Pat Freiermuth and Kyle Pitts. So if he's available in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe the Bears go with him, but I doubt it. It's unlikely.
It's not looking likely. And then
Luke
I guess
Farrell,
I kind of made the last pick.
Yeah,
Luke
Brad.
Farrell. Yeah, Ben and I, we couldn't even find anyone, but we said screw it, Luke Farrell. Top recruit out of high school from Perry, Ohio. Luke Farrell didn't do much this past season. Had a decent sophomore year, but junior year, excuse me. But
basically nothing.
It is what it is. Jeremy Ruckert was holding that position down for the Bucks. Whatever. If he's an undrafted guy, you might as well take him. He's 6'6", 260 with a lot of untapped potential, in my opinion.
Good blocking tight end.
We move on to probably the most exciting position in my mind, other than, of course, quarterback. It is the offensive line. Maybe corners, I will say. I'm excited about the corners in this class, but the offensive line is loaded. Do I think they will be in a position to get Penisa Wool, however you say it? No. He's going to be up there. He's going to be gone before they get there. Christian Darrisaw and Rashawn Slater are most likely too. But Tevin Jenkins is a guy I'm really, really high on. The Bears, I like their left side of the offensive line with James Daniels, Cody Whitehair, and Charles Leno. I don't love it. The Bears' offensive line for years has been holding them back. But the right side, Elijah Wilkinson and Jermaine Afidi might be the worst right offensive line in the nation. I don't think any team has a worse right side of the offensive line. Alex Bars, I will say, played phenomenally. I was really excited with him. I believe he started the last 3 games, maybe 4. He did go to Notre Dame. I will shout that out. But that's 3 or 4 games. So I'm not going to put too much on that. But Alex Bars played fine. So we'll see what happens there in camp. Afidi, the former first-round pick from Baylor. But right tackle, I do not trust Lachavious Simmons. I believe he went to Tennessee State. And I believe he was the 53rd out of 53rd guy that made the team last year. And then Elijah Wilkinson, I don't even know who he is. So Tevin Jenkins, really high on him. Darrisaw and Slater both played left tackle for their respective teams. Slater did not play this past season. I will say, though, Slater absolutely clamped up Chase Young. I was watching a lot of that game. Chase Young had a sack, but Rashawn Slater got the better of Chase Young in that 2019 matchup when Rashawn Slater was just a sophomore. This is 2 years ago, and Rashawn Slater was absolutely demoralizing Chase Young. Northwestern got killed, but Rashawn Slater put on a show. Tevin Jenkins, though, is the only pure right tackle out of this group. The Chicago Bears don't really need a left tackle. They just re-signed Charles Leno last offseason to a 4-year, I believe, $40 million extension. But Tevin Jenkins, watch out for him. Sneaky. He's from Kansas. Man. Middle of nowhere, Topeka, Kansas. Oklahoma State, not the most well-known school, but hey, Tevin Jenkins, love how he plays. I love his goggles too. Shout out Tevin Jenkins. I just like everything about him. He's just a sick dude.
All right, yeah. The offensive line is a position of need for the Bears. Possibly we'll see it addressed in the first round. And I'm putting a guy Brad said he didn't like, Elijah Vera-Tucker. We were talking about him earlier. Brad thought he's overrated. He might be a little overrated, but at the same time, the offensive guard position is one of the weaknesses of this Bears team. Just horrible. Jermaine Ifedi, I'm sorry, but coming up from the Seahawks, not getting it done. And this guy is far and away the best offensive guard in this class. I don't think you could make a case for anyone else. And for that reason alone, if he falls to the Bears, because I don't know if he will, 20 might be too low for this guy. If he falls to the Bears, I believe the Bears should snatch him up. If we're not trading up for a quarterback or looking at cornerbacks in the first round as well.
And I've seen him mocked to the Bears, I will say. He's been mocked to the Bears.
And it's possibly doesn't go all the way to 20. I haven't seen him at 20 that often. I think he's considered more of a top 15 guy. But he is the best offensive guard in this class. Brad might disagree, but I think Brad will agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I believe he's overrated, like Ben said, but he is the best offensive guard in this class.
Yeah, if you look at any positional rankings, you'll see he's wildly ahead of anyone else. And now Liam Eichenberg is an offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. You got to throw in Notre Dame offensive tackles whenever you can because, as Brad likes to point out, O-line U, right?
O-line U. It is O-line U. Wisconsin's coming up, but no, it's Notre Dame right now.
I've argued for Wisconsin before, but I'm just going to stick with this. Liam Eichenberg, the tape's great. He's 6'6", 302. And Brad was telling me Brad, you want to tell about Liam Eichenberg's
I'll tell the people.
Yeah,
so Liam Eichenberg was in the second group for Notre Dame's pro day. Notre Dame had a pro day. I believe the first one was in mid-March, late March. It was like March 30th or something. And then they were supposed to have another group about a week or so later. And that group never ended up happening because Liam Eichenberg and Ade Ogundeji both got COVID. Liam Eichenberg. Let's go back to last fall. Last fall, Notre Dame had a game postponed against Wake Forest and had to push back the Florida State game, I believe. Or no, they had a week, but that was their first game back. Notre Dame had some COVID problems last fall. I believe nearly 30 to 40 players got COVID, which is pretty crazy. That's about half the team, at least scholarship-wise. And Liam Eichenberg was not one of those guys. You would think the starting left tackle, probably the best player on your offense, got COVID. Well, he didn't. But of course, he cares about COVID. So he did not go to the Reese's Senior Bowl down in Alabama. He said, you know what, I'm just going to continue working out, whatever. I guess my film speaks for itself. So a move on his part. I don't think anyone from the Senior Bowl ended up getting COVID or anyone had it. So did it really matter? Probably not. And he would have got more film out. Now, he could have got injured or whatever, so I'm not going to say if it was a good or a bad move. But he didn't go to the Reese's Senior Bowl, which is a pretty big deal because I think he was the only guy that didn't end up going that was invited. So we fast forward to April, and he's supposed to have this Notre Dame Pro Day with 32 teams in attendance, hoping to get his times out, how much he can bench, whatever. He's a very strong dude, tests well. And it didn't happen because he got COVID. And I just felt so bad for the dude because he didn't go to the Senior Bowl because he was worried he would get COVID. And now, for some random reason, I guess working out. So when he was working out with got COVID and he got it. So you got to feel bad for the dude. But yeah, during the season, I saw him mocked in the first round pretty much in every single mock draft I saw. But of course, offensive linemen tend to fall a little bit. Now he's more of a second round guy. And without a pro day and without going to the Senior Bowl, I'm not going to rule out a third round selection, but I think he could end up falling all the way to the third. But that would be a steal.
That would be
If
a
a team
steal.
could get him in the third round, this is a first-round talent. That would
Yeah.
be maybe the steal of the draft.
And I don't think the Bears are going to go with him if it's the 20th pick in the draft. But I do believe if later down the road, if he's still
At
up there-
52, yeah.
yeah, at 52, this is a guy the Bears could easily go with, like for sure. So that's why I put him
Absolutely.
down. And O-line you, baby.
Alanya. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Quick little Bears video. We will do more of these. We're doing a defensive one either tomorrow or Tuesday. I will have that ready. Comment if you have any questions or comments about the Bears draft. We are excited. That's all get out. I can't wait. It's 11 days away. The draft jitters are coming back. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. That helps us out so much. And comment any questions you got. That is it from Ben and I. Peace.